I have been so fortunate over the last 30 years to be able to interview so many incredible athletes, some Hall of Famers along the way as well. Today was different here in Hattiesburg, Mississippi with Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre. Now, I know some of you have gotten used to me with these longer conversations. I think this is the new record. I got Brett to talk for 3 hours, but we talked about everything. His father, Irv, who died suddenly 22 years ago, what he taught him before his death, and really how he's tried to live for his father in many ways since then. He announced just a little bit ago, about a year ago, that he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. He goes in deep about how it is affecting him today and every single day. We talk deeply about the controversies from 20 years ago in New York, and most importantly, I think what's going on right now in a civil lawsuit that is still ongoing here in Mississippi. And he gets animated about that. And a special on Netflix that he wasn't too happy with. Some word association with some quarterbacks there at the end, guys that he played against, and overall, how he wants to be remembered. On the field, sure, but off the field as well. Again, a really, really special conversation, a special day here in southern Mississippi with Brett Favre. I'm pretty confident you're going to enjoy it as much as I did here on the Sage Steele Show. I will say, so this is a booming metropolis here, and I have to say it right, Hattiesburg.
Hattiesburg.
So you almost don't even say the I in Hatties. You just say Hattiesburg.
It's kind of like Favre. It's Favre. I can't explain it.
Okay.
I just say it.
The people are so kind, and that is what I've noticed about your state. I told you earlier about my little girl. We just moved her in for her sophomore year in Oxford, and when we brought her, that was the first time I'd ever been to Mississippi. And the people are genuinely different here. I mean, you've had a chance to live in different places now, but you came back here for what reason?
The people are outstanding.
Yeah.
And here's a good example. So several years ago when the Super Bowl was in L.A., the Bengals and the Rams were playing. Mm-hmm. I went out there. This young 18-year-old kid drove us around, and he navigated through L.A., which there's no way I could do it. No way I would want to do it.
No,
but
it's awful.
He was awesome. We got to know, his name's Kyle. So we got to know Kyle extremely well because he drove us all week. I said, where are you going to college? Or you have a scholarship? Do you play football? Tell me about it. I play football, but my junior year was canceled because of COVID here in California. So that's really when you get recruited. So I really don't have any offers. And I said, well, why don't you send me your highlights and I'll pass them on to our head coach here at Southern Miss. Oh, Mr. Brett, thank you. That's so nice of you. He's grew up in Sacramento. So he sent me his highlights. I sent them to our head coach at the time, Will Hall. Will looked at it and said, love the kid, but I don't have a spot. I don't even have a walk-on spot. So I told Kyle, and he said, well, thank you for trying. So my daughter was playing beach volleyball here at the time, and their last tournament was like the 1st of April. And we invited Kyle out to come watch.
Okay.
Well, he flew out by himself. I picked him up at the airport. Well, prior to picking him up, I called our head coach at the time, Will Hall, and I said, Will, I'm picking up the young man I sent the highlights to you. I'm picking him up today. I just want you to meet him. So long story short, they met. Will loved him, offered him a walk-on spot. He was, the kid was, he was so excited. Even though it was a walk-on spot, he's still on the team here.
No way.
His parents came out, never been to Mississippi, neither had Kyle. They bought a house here. And if they were sitting here right now, they would tell you the people are the only reason we're here. So
from Sacramento.
They sold their house in Sacramento.
No way. Well, there's some benefits to that too, for sure. California.
Definitely. And we have a chuckle about it from time to time, but they're outstanding people. But my point is, and they've said it over and over because we've become very good friends with them. they're like, we didn't expect Mississippi to be what it is. It's gotten a bad rap, of course. But presently, the people are great. The food's outstanding. It's a little hot, but you can tolerate that. And pretty much everywhere you go in Mississippi, you get people that'll say, yes, sir, no, ma'am, thank you, please. We'll open a door for you. And when I go other places, I realize that that's not normal.
Right.
So that more than anything is why we're here. We love the people, and it's home.
I think it's just, and you don't talk about it either, which is, I guess, what we're supposed to do. We're not saying, hey, look what I did, right?
Yeah.
However, through all those years, I'm sure there's several stories where you can look back. Maybe in the moment you realized it too, but isn't it amazing that through football and just going after your dream, like the number of lives that you can affect, including this young man who was just your driver at the Super Bowl, like that is special, I think.
It is special, and I often think about that for whatever reason, that crosses my mind, like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Because I think we all, different times in our life, go, what the hell am I supposed to be doing? Even if you're doing something. And I coached high school football for 2 years, immediately after I retired. Didn't know if I would want to do it. It was really, the head coach had made me promise him that when I retired for good, I would be his offense coordinator. And I would always say, yeah. And I when I'd turn away, I'm like, it's not right. Well, he held me to it. I did it. And I absolutely loved it. Didn't get paid, didn't want to get paid. Was hoping I still had a little juice in the tank to help these kids. And I had plenty left. I enjoyed it. It was rewarding. And then I kind of moved on to whatever's next. And that's, if it helps people, if it helps one person, whatever it may be, then, I've done a good job. And so, and I think that goes back to, well, in fact, I know it goes back to growing up. Mom and dad were both school teachers. My dad was a high school football coach. Combined, he made $20,000 with his coaching stipend. My mom made $18,000. So combined with 4 kids, and we did okay. But when we would go out and eat, it was like Pizza Hut, and Dad would give us all right, we're going to eat as much as we can. It would be all you can eat buffet.
At Pizza Hut?
Like, at Pizza Hut. It was like on Tuesday or Wednesday night. And we got a tongue lashing. When you get full, go in the bathroom, do jumping jacks. Come back out, reload.
No way.
Oh, serious. We're going to get our money's worth.
Yeah.
So, and we would, but, we did all right. But my point in all of it is we grew up modest, humble. Mom and Dad were at all the ball games that we played in. We rode to school together. We rode home together. 1st through 12th was right there. So I went 12 years of school without missing a day. And
so you were setting the tone for later in your career.
Apparently so.
In your life.
It wasn't like my goal is to have perfect attendance for 12 years. That wasn't necessarily my goal. My goal was I don't want to get inundated with homework or overloaded with schoolwork. So by being there, I can stay current. But it was very humbling. My mom was a special education teacher. And so before the start of school every day, I would go in her classroom and she had, this was back when there was no separation. So you would have the worst behavior kids to like the most mentally challenged. I mean, they just threw them all in.
Yeah.
And it was just, at that age, I recognized numerous times where I'm pretty lucky. I'm blessed. I can go out and play football. I can play baseball. I can do what I want. Where some of these kids are severely restricted. Mm-hmm. So I think that set the tone for the rest of my life.
That work ethic that you saw mom and dad. And so it sounds like they set that bar high for you guys. Like there's no excuses.
You had to know my dad. He was short on attaboys and long on getting after your ass. I don't know how else to put it. I remember, it's funny because you remember things from your childhood that you wonder sometimes, why in the hell do I remember that? You can't remember what you had for breakfast, at least that in my case. But I remember one time in Little League baseball, my dad wasn't the coach, but they were sitting in the bleachers, and I got thrown out at second base. I don't know if I was stealing or it was a infield ground ball. I don't know. But I remember I got thrown out, and I was embarrassed. And I was super competitive back then, but I was also one that I pouted if I lost. Thankfully, I grew out of that. But I got thrown out at second, and so I laid there like I was hurt. And I laid there, and eventually, and the game was over.
The game ended like that.
The game ended.
Wow.
And I don't know if it ended on that play or we had the team got the bottom or something, but it was over. And my dad, after the game, he never came out on the field. He said, if you ever lay on that field again, and knowing that you're not hurt, you can sleep there because I'm not coming to get your ass. You can stay all night. And I can probably count 2 times after that I actually stayed on the ground for any period of time. And one of those was in the pros. There's times I wanted to, but I remember thinking, when my dad was still alive, I thought he'll kick my ass if I don't get up. And then when he died, and I would be in that situation, I would say, if he were here, he'd kick my ass, so I better get up. So a lot of lessons were learned early on. But, I think my mom, she taught special ed for 35 years, and moms are a different breed, as you know. They sense things. They know things that we men, what are you talking about? I had no clue.
Oh, yeah. We're good like that.
Let's not get into all of that. But my mom was, she was tough, but she was loving. It was important to her to be at every event. And so like Deanna and I, and even when I would be in Minnesota playing or in Green Bay playing or even with the Jets, when our daughters were playing, they played volleyball or basketball or soccer. In elementary, they played them all. So there was always games. And if I could make it, I don't care if I was a starting quarterback for Green Bay, the Vikings, or the Jets, I was going to make it. It was that important to me. And I know it's important to the kids. We never had to worry about that because they were always there. And so when I would hear of, someone would say, well, my parents never come. That I couldn't understand that for whatever reason. So I consider our childhood very blessed, and considering a lot of other upbringings, sometimes you don't even get to participate in sports or activities. Mm-hmm. We were the lucky ones.
What was the best part of growing up in the Favre family?
We always, there was always, it wasn't always a party. It was always a game, like, if that makes sense. We were always playing sports. We were always outside playing. We were climbing trees. We were running down the road. We were playing hide and seek, kick the can. And there were times when Dad would say, all right, today's yard work day. Now, that was not the funnest day. But as I look back, you know, oftentimes I think you can go to anyone who's 35, 40, 45, 50 or older and start talking about growing up, and there'll be things that, you know, make their face light up. And then there'll be those that, you know, they'd rather not think about. We've all had those moments, but like for us, it was a lot more of the brighten your face type of days. And I wouldn't have traded it for anything. You know, little things like when we got up every morning, my mom had a full breakfast cooked. And I took that for granted because we got 2 daughters, and like when it would be my day to cook breakfast, and I can sort of cook. I'm a better eater than I am a cook. You know, for 2 girls, I mean, it was hard. Cereal was easy, but my mom would cook grits, eggs, biscuits, bacon. The next day it would be pancakes or omelet or scrambled eggs. And the one day, and I was telling my mom, we were talking about this actually last week, and I jokingly apologized. Even I was serious, but she knew what I meant. I was like, Mom, I remember growing up smelling that breakfast, and just you didn't have to wake us up. We were in because we were fighting to get in there. But the day, and there was always one day a week when we didn't smell breakfast, it was cereal. And we would go in there begrudgingly and would be like, well, I don't want no cereal. You know, how pitiful are we? But, you know, we had food on the table. We had a roof over our head. I remember when we got a swimming pool for the first time. We thought we had hung the moon. You know, so there are so many great memories growing up. Just a great childhood.
Yeah. How old is your mom?
My mom was 80.
She is now.
She's 80 now.
Wow. How's her health?
All things considering, she's good. She takes terrible care of herself. She's got self-induced stress. Like, I'll go down to the house. The house I grew up in is rebuilt exactly like it was. Katrina wiped it away. And my whole family, my 2 brothers, my sister, my mom, my dad had already passed away. My grandmother, some aunts and uncles, some cousins were all in that house. Now my wife and my immediate family, my daughters and my sister-in-law, her husband, their kids, my mother-in-law, they were in our house here during Katrina. They got wind. The house that I grew up in on the coast had 6 feet of water in it.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a 1-story house.
Oh.
We were playing Tennessee, the last preseason game on a Thursday night. I'll never forget. Monday was when Katrina was making landfall. So I'm talking to my mom, you know, hurricanes is, you know, we know it's coming. We're locking everything down. I said, are y'all going to leave? No, this won't be as bad as Camille. So we'll be okay. That house had been there since 1940. My grandfather ended up giving it to my mom and dad when they got married. And then the family expanded, the house got bigger. So it had been there. It had never gotten water in the house. There's a river out front that actually leads into the Gulf. So they're in the house. Katrina, it starts with the wind field, and then it pushes the river water. It just keeps pushing it up. Mm-hmm. The next thing they have, they're in a house that whitecaps hit inside the house.
Gosh.
And so, I'm thinking, I couldn't get in touch with them, but that was not a big deal. Lines are down. Mm-hmm. Well, 2 days later, a Houston TV station that was in reporting, by chance, ran into my mom and was able to get a satellite phone call to me that said, we're okay. Because after about the first day, you realize it was much worse than anyone expected. Mm-hmm. It got bigger and it stopped. It just stayed in one spot. Well, there was a 45-foot tidal surge that came up the river into where my mom's house is. And they were all in it. And I would have people tell me, why didn't they get out? Well, at that point, there was 150 mile per hour winds, and a blade of straw from a pine tree would go right through you, 150 miles per hour.
Yep.
So you're in it. I mean, there's nothing you can do. You just hope for the best. But my grandmother, my mom's mom, she was still alive at the time, and she was one of my favorites. And we called her Meemaw. So when we could laugh about it, I said, Meemaw, were you scared? And she said, I can't say the word, GD. I was scared. I said, well, what'd you do? She said, I can't swim. And I said, I forgot that, but yeah, now that you say that, she never learned to swim. She said, I just started drinking Jack Daniels. She was in such a panic and when she started drinking, she started calling it Jack Daniels.
That is beautiful.
And so after that was, hey, you got any Jack Daniels? But she said, if I'm going shit-faced drunk.
Totally. I like her.
And she was a gem. But so.
I can't imagine you knowing what's going on. Once you realized that it was camping out over Mississippi and many other parts of this country, right? The Gulf. And to know that they were there and they couldn't leave and you couldn't even begin to get a hold of them. Like, how did you manage that while you're trying to prepare for a game? And
that Monday, it makes landfall. I'm not even, didn't even give it a second thought. It happens all the time. It was category 3 or teetering 3 or 4. We've had those before. But when it stopped, I still wasn't real concerned. But when they started having reports coming out of that area, the water, like the water, all the casinos are on the beach. They have to build on the beach. They have to build on water. And they were talking about some of them were like a mile inland that they got picked up and dropped off. So I started thinking, I knew the river we grew up on, it never got to the house, but it's gotten high. And when they started talking about Bay St. Louis, and that's where the river starts from the Gulf of Mexico, then I started getting concerned. So I'm calling my brother, calling my other brother, calling my mom, nothing. So I'm calling people that knows them, nothing, can't get in touch with them. And then the next day, usually, after a second day, the reports start coming out of, everyone's fine here, but this happened. But there were still a lot of unknowns, and I really started getting worried. More so, I couldn't even get in touch with anyone. I tried virtually everybody to no avail. And had it not been for that Houston TV station, I would have gone absolutely bananas. And I was, watching the news. They're talking about no cars, no trucks are going in. Everything's coming out. Only thing going in is supplies. Power's out. And I know like that power in Hattiesburg was out for like 3 weeks throughout town. And there were people pulling guns on other people over gas and diesel. And I'm in Green Bay and everything was fine.
Right.
And I'm thinking, no one knew it was going to be this bad. I mean, it was projected to be pretty bad, but it would be in and out pretty quickly. And when that didn't happen, it just was total chaos.
Yeah. We're at 20 years.
I know.
20 years ago, right? 05.
Where's the time go?
Yeah, it's scary, which is why.
The older we get, the faster it goes.
I know. I don't like it. We need to fix that somehow, fix the system. But I think back, okay, Katrina, and your dad, that was 2003 when you lost him, right?
2003.
22 years.
I know. December 21st or 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
I get it confused.
21st, and I think the 22nd was the game the next day on Monday night.
And my brother's birthday is the 22nd.
Is it really?
Yeah. So, that was a tumultuous time. It was Christmas, my favorite, probably most favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
And it still is, but there's an asterisk, but I tell people all the time, tell people you love them, give them a hug, because you never know. You never know.
I think sometimes being able to compartmentalize is a gift because, all right, stuff happens and people got to go to work. The whole world watched you that night, the very next day when you're on Monday Night Football, playing the Raiders. And I remember watching as a reporter, as a sportscaster at that time, but as a human being and crying, never having met you, and just wondering, how is this man able to function right now? Because it's not like it was cancer. It's not like you had time to prepare.
Right.
It was so sudden. Heart attack, stroke while he's driving.
Yeah.
And just like that, he's gone. And you're half a world away, basically, up in Green Bay. Do you reflect back
actually,
on?
When I got the news,
I guess
I was in Oakland.
In Oakland, yeah.
I remind people that, go back to that time and you're in the present. We had 2 games left, Oakland, and then we were back in Green Bay. And I think we were playing Denver to finish out the regular season. And if we won both, we had to win both, first of all. And we needed someone to beat Minnesota. They had 2 games left as well. So in order to get to the playoffs. Well, I wanted to get to the playoffs. There was a lot of talk of will he, won't he? I understand if he doesn't play. There was a lot of that talk. Well, where like internally, and the people that I was around, the players, the coaches, my wife flew out Saturday night late and stayed with me the whole time. Mm. They would all tell you there was no doubt he was playing. Because if you knew my dad, you would certainly shake your head like there's no question Brett was going to play, because that was, Dad wouldn't have it any other way. But also my dad wouldn't, he don't want any, don't play for sympathy. And if you're going to play your ass off. Don't play just to honor me. You better play your ass off. And that's no BS. That's not sugarcoating it. My dad, that's exactly how he was. So, there wasn't, boy, I don't think I can play. It was, I'm playing, but I want to play better than I've ever played, ever, in my career, college, high school, because I want my dad to know that this was for him. And in saying that, that's a high expectation, because I had, I'd played long enough at that point that I had accumulated statistically some good games. And first of all, I wanted to win. And I knew that if I played bad, that lowers our chances. But I wanted to play head over heels better than I've ever played before. And I prayed God, and I've told people this numerous times. You know, I think we all wrestle with faith at times. And just can it really be real? And I think that's just the human element of it. But we've all, you know, I say we've all, most of us have at different times said, just give me a sign, God. You know, something, you know, in the sky, or this billboard, you know, and the signs that we're looking for, we never get, because we're human. The signs that you get are some that you don't recognize sometimes, or that hit you like a ton of bricks. And so I prayed diligently to, you know, I want to honor my father in a way that everyone can say, wow, that was, and, you know, did I have doubt that would happen? Of course. But walking in right at halftime, I threw a touchdown. We ended up going in. I got 399 yards passing. I either had 4 or 5 touchdowns right before half. And I still had half to go. And I remember thinking, that's the sign. You know, recognize it. It is what it is. That's the sign. And so, you know, there was a sense of pride because Deanna and I had chartered a plane. We flew back to Green Bay right after, grabbed Christmas presents, took like a 2-hour power nap, flew to Mississippi, had the service that afternoon, and did the Christmas thing, presents, and then flew back because we had to play Denver following Sunday. But not only did we win and I played outstanding against the Raiders, Arizona beat Minnesota on a last-second play. And it was like the stars are aligning. No, I think we got beat out in the first round. I'm not sure, but it was definitely bittersweet. I would want the circumstances to be a lot different, but as I look back and think about that 3-day window, I think I succeeded in, you know, he's proud as he looks down. So,
what do you think he would have said to you after that game?
You could have done better. I can't tell you the times, like, my dad he would come up for every game. And if he had to drive, he would drive. If he had, like when he was coaching high school and I was playing at Southern Miss, a good example, we would play at East Carolina. We played him every year, home and away. So when we would play him up there, he would coach his game on Friday night, and they would load up in a van and they would drive to Louisville or drive to East Carolina or Virginia Tech. Trying to think of some other places, Florida State.
Those are long drives.
Long drive. And they would get there like right at kickoff. But
jeez,
you know, he wasn't going to miss. And he would get there somehow, some way. So like when I was playing in the pros, he would fly to every game. Well, the home games, he would come over to my house, and his big deal was riding with me to the stadium. And then he would ride back home with me. Well, most of the time, I played well. May have had a hiccup or two along the way. So my dad, when I played for him, we ran the wishbone. Not a lot of throwing involved. And believe me, we argued daily about, Dad, we need to throw. If you want me to get a scholarship, I'll shut up. I'm calling plays, you run them. It'll work out. I'm not changing my whole damn offense for you. Now, my older brother played for him as well, but he threw it with my older brother. So I don't know what that means.
And who had the better arm between you and your brother?
no question, I had a better arm. Scott could throw, he could run, but he had a really good running back. Same deal for me, but it was like, I'm gonna throw with Scott, and I'm not gonna, I'm gonna run the wishbone with Brett. But if he were here right now, I know what he'd say. Worked out pretty good, didn't it? That, when he would fly to Green Bay and get in the truck with me afterwards, he usually had him a couple beers and he was feeling good. And he would say, "Wow, hell." And my dad, when he whispered, he yelled. My dad never was like, "Hey, you wake up your mama." It was like, "God damn it." Yes. Everybody would they would be startled. He would get in the truck after a game and I knew it was coming. And I had about a mile to go to our house. A little traffic. Enough time for him. Well, hell, you could have had a perfect game if you wouldn't have done this, done that. And I'm like, look, we ran the wishbone. Don't tell me anything about passing and reading defenses, because we ran the option. Oh, hell, he had to get the last word in. Yes. But it was really, and I found it comical at the time, even though I was presently living through it. But we would argue all the time about, why did I throw it there? Or if you completed this one, you'd have been, 100%, whatever. And I would be like, but he was going to have the last laugh and word every time, no matter what. And eventually I just like, whatever, you win.
Was there a time where he flat out said, "I'm proud of you"?
No. I think when the closest thing would be when, and I may be wrong, but I think the closest thing would have been when I got drafted and he gave me a hug. And I had forgotten about that. And I saw it. I don't know if it was like during the draft, but I saw where we embraced. And I didn't remember that. Now, I know my dad, and I tell people this all the time. And I know if I had a son, it would be a little different than girls. You're a little bit tougher on, dads tend to be a little tougher on boys than girls. I'm a softie with my girls, but my dad, I don't remember, ever saying, I guess the best way to put it, if I'm back in those days and my dad were to say, "All right, boys, I love you, each one of you. Y'all have a great game," I would have passed out. That was not his MO. Do I look at that negatively? It's just who he was. I knew he loved me. Parenting and developing as you get older is about learning from the previous generation.
Yep.
And we're always perfecting our craft. We're never going to succeed, but we do get better. And like Scott, my older brother, he's got a son. My younger brother has two sons. They tell him they love him all the time. My dad that wasn't his deal. He was, as I said earlier, he was short on attaboys. Not only would I have passed out if he would have said, "Tough game, I love you, don't worry about it, we'll be all right next week." I'd have ran off the road if I was driving, because what in the hell's wrong with you? He was more, and I'm aging myself, but I don't know if you remember Gomer Pyle.
Yep.
Sergeant Carter.
Yeah.
All he did was yell. He looks just like my dad. Flat top, no neck. His neck went from bottom of his head to right into shoulders. And as I said, he never whispered. He thought he whispered, but it was yelling. So, if he would have ever shown any soft side, Dad, are you okay? Mm-hmm. But I knew, his way of saying, great, you did good, I'm proud of you, was, well, it wasn't bad, but you can be better. I'm like, man, that's a pretty good compliment. But that was his deal. I think my dad, and it would be really cool if he were living today and we could sit and have which we couldn't really do, even not long before he died. So where you could have a real nice conversation and say, really being open and not so. My dad was always guarded.
Yeah.
And I think, again, I don't know this, and it would be nice to be able to talk to him about it, but I think his personality or thought process was, if I give, and then, he had the old school mentality. If I give too much praise, it'll go to their head. And I want them to be hungry. Mm-hmm. I want them to be determined and persevere. And by telling them they're doing good, even if it's legit, I'm giving them a reason to not work as hard. That's just my theory.
Yeah.
And I found myself, before he died and after he died, it really didn't matter in regards to that. But I sort of challenged myself throughout my career. Now, obviously, the challenge became different as I gained success. As I'm trying to get a college scholarship, I haven't arrived yet. I just need a shot. Mm-hmm. When I got a shot and I started making the most of it, I know, like, from a father's perspective, whether it's his daughter or son, the fear is they get complacent, or God forbid they get hurt, whatever. But for me, I think I challenged myself based largely on just kind of the way my dad raised me and my brothers. I did a lot of working out by myself in the off season. I would go up to Oak Grove and I'd run bleachers. I would throw the high school kids. I would do a weight workout program at my home. And I always say this to the younger athletes, whether it be football or whatever. I'm like, what are you doing when no one's looking? Are you working out? Are you running that extra sprint? Are you the extra stadium? Or throwing 5 more minutes? Mm-hmm. Or are you one of those when the coach says, all right, and he leaves, do you leave too? It's okay if you're that way. But what are you?
Yep.
I was the one that did the extra reps. And you'll find this, I think you'll find it like surprising, maybe humorous, but it's a sign of the time. So when I'm, thinking about what I said about my work ethic and determination and discipline, I felt like that set me apart. Not that I was the better athlete, that set me apart. I was willing to continue, no matter what, hot, throwing up. I'm gonna do one more than my opponent or even my teammate. But when I was coaching in Oak Grove, after the first day of practice, I told the guys, I said, look, I got nothing but time. I'm your coach. If you want to work extra on routes or quarterback play or anything, if I have any expertise in it, I'll try to help you. So again, I got nothing but time. So if you say, Coach, can you give me 20 minutes after practice? I'd love to. I said, also, I'll watch as much film as you want. I think I can teach you a lot. Not one time in 2 years. Not one time did a kid take me up on it.
You're kidding.
We had great kids. We won a state championship. It's just a different generation.
I cannot imagine having you as a coach on my team. I mean, those kids might not have been alive to see you play, but they know because of where they live for sure. And to not be like, oh my gosh, Coach Favre. And if I'm the parent, you're damn right I'd tell my kids to go talk to Coach Favre.
My dad and mom would have, like if Roger Staubach, who my two guys when I was growing up were Archie Manning. Unfortunately, he played with a terrible team, but he was fun to watch. Or Roger Staubach. I love the Cowboys. If either one of them would have did a little volunteer for
insane
and said, look, you're not bothering me. If you want to throw after, you want to talk ball, you want to watch film, eventually either one of them would have said, Brett, I got to go back and play.
Yes.
This kid won't leave me alone.
I got to go eat something.
Yeah. You got to go home. You got to get a shower. I would have leaned on that resource. That's
crazy.
And I tell people that all the time, and everyone is like, surely one time, not one time. And the kids were great. I didn't sit there and go, what, am I that bad? But I did think, is the generation that much different that, I don't know what that says, but because every generation thinks that they were the best, but it was really surprising. It was very surprising, and I really loved the coaching part of it. I don't know if it was necessarily the coaching aspect of it, or I guess the best way to put it, like we had some really good players. We had a couple of kids that were not going to see the field. And I would coach them, and it was hard because I had to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
And often I would remind myself, you were there at one time, and the read may come easy to you, but it didn't initially.
Mm-hmm.
But when one of the guys would finally get something that you were like, every day, it's like, this kid's not going to get it. Maybe I'm talking to the other coach. I'm like, he's going to turn the other way every time. And he's not going to get it. And then they get it. And I didn't know what that feeling was like until it happened. And that's the reason a lot of people coach. Same as a parent. You harp on something with your kids, and at some point you go, this is going nowhere. They're stubborn, they're not going to get it, and then they get it. And then hallelujah. When that happened as a coach, I was like, because they would come back and you could see in their face.
Yeah.
Like I was not opposed to giving them a hug, high five, tackle them, but I'd also rip their ass too. And I learned that from my dad.
Mm-hmm.
What my dad didn't do, he would rip your ass, but he wouldn't say, no, you did a damn good job. I'm proud of you. It wasn't as bad as yesterday. Okay, that's a compliment, right?
Yeah, you take that. If he were sitting here right now, almost 22 years after he died, you're now, 55 years old?
I was having this conversation with someone the other day. My birthday's in October. I'll be 56.
You'll be 56. What would you say to Dad today?
I would say that if you didn't already know this, I would say my career has been super successful, not perfect. And a large part of that is because of you. Did you teach me the fundamentals of throwing? No. But did you teach me what leadership, discipline, hard work. Did you teach me what that's all about? Of course. And I would not have made it and had been as persistent, whatever you want to call it, if not for you. You know, there's some things I can solely place the blame on him, and only a few things that he wouldn't be the reason for. But the most important ingredients came from him. And I tell people this all the time. If my dad were here, he would say, well, whatever I did, it worked out pretty damn good. You know, it's like the scholarship thing. You know, we went round and round with it. Dad, I'm not going to get a scholarship. Well, hell, if you can play football, they'll find you. And I'm thinking, you know, I'm 17 years old. Yeah. Imagine, I'm thinking, this guy's off his damn rocker. You know, how am I going to get recruited if I don't throw it? But again, if he were alive, worked out pretty damn good, didn't it? What can I say? So, you know, and he was the head coach, and he was going to do it the way he wanted to do it. And, you know, I've heard him say this before, not necessarily to me, but I'm not going to do anything solely based on promoting my son or sons, meanwhile jeopardizing the season just for my son. Right. You know, I'm in it to win it, and whatever that takes, I'll do. And if it's running the option, if it's passing, whatever. But Brett's going to be, or Scott or Jeff, you know, they're going to be one of 40 or 50, whatever we had on the team. They're not going to be one and then everyone else over here. I'm going to treat them just like I treat everyone else. Mm-hmm.
Which is admirable. Actually, a lot of parents wouldn't do it that way.
No question.
First thing I saw when you walked up the sidewalk here was that T-shirt. Is it true? Everything hurts?
Everything hurts. I get more compliments or comments about this shirt. And I was thumbing through social media one day and I saw this advertised and I was like, not a lot of stuff like jumps out at me. You remember the Ginsu knives?
Yes.
I just remember that, you know, my mom like, oh my God. Well, that shirt jumped out at me like the Ginsu knife jumped out at my mom. I was like, that's me. And I ordered one. And I have had and I got like 3 different colors. And depending on how I feel that day, so this is kind of a brighter color. And
yes, thank you for the brighter color today.
Everything hurts, but it's not as bad today.
Okay.
But I get more people, great shirt. I need one of those.
Yeah, really.
And then I'm like, well, you need 1,500 sacks, and then tell me how you feel. Or I'm out at the golf course or something. Someone will say, oh, you look like your back's hurt. And I'm like, I said, I have no idea why, but it's killing me.
1,500. What hurts the most?
Well, I never had back issues playing growing up. And I'll be honest with you, up until I retired, I spent more time in the training room picking on guys that were getting treatment. You know, don't get me wrong, I got hurt and stuff bothered me, but I spent very little time in the training room. I mean, it was kind of my MO I'm going to play. Treatment makes you soft, which is not true, but, you know, I had that mentality. But so 3 years ago, I started having my right hip started bothering me, and I could not get comfortable. So I sitting in the chair right now, I'm comfortable. But prior to hip replacement, I'd be doing this, just trying to find that comfortable position. Never could find it. Had my hip replaced probably 12 days after I walked out that day, which was amazing. Had it done here in town. And then 11 days later, I was riding my bike.
Oh my gosh.
And the rehab or lack thereof was incredible. It's like you walk, and when the wound heals, you're kind of free to get going. So after 3 months, I hit the ground running. The doc cleared me. He said, whatever you want to do it. So I started back biking with the group. And one day I got off the bike and my back, and I say my back, it comes from my back, but it was really the top of my right glute. I don't know what it feels like for an ice pick to be stuck in you, but I always use that as an example. It felt like someone had stuck a screwdriver or ice pick right in the top of my right glute. And it was weird because that would last for a couple hours, and it would go to the side of my hip. So I thought something was wrong with the hip replacement. Turns out I ended up having a surgery called a foraminotomy, where they go in and they clean out the facet joints that are up and down your spine. And I describe them as, they're like a picture of a noodle that the nerves go up into that noodle, and that's their protection. Well, that noodle is full of arthritis. And so it's clutching the nerve, like pretty much my whole back, but the three areas that bother me are L4, L5, S1, lower and on the right side. And I've had one surgery, and then I had another surgery to put a spinal cord stimulator put in. Usually I carry a remote around. If my back starts acting up too bad, I can hit the remote, and there's a module buried in my back that will send shock waves.
What?
It's kind of crazy, but it works pretty good when the pain gets too bad.
Okay.
It's stem, but inside you. So usually stem, they put pads on
Right.
you, and this happens from inside.
That's amazing.
And not everybody has success with it, but it's helped me tremendously. But then I was diagnosed with Parkinson's about a year after my back issue, and turns out that they're not related, but they're interconnected. So my back issue is on the right side. Well, my Parkinson's is all right-sided. So Parkinson's is either one side or the other.
Okay.
And the kind of Parkinson's I have, everyone attributes Parkinson's with shaking. Mm-hmm. And most people say, I don't see much shaking. Earlier, I was messing with the glass. I have a little shaking, but not like a Muhammad Ali or Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
Mine is rigidity and stiffness. The problem with that is I have rigid and stiff joints on my right side, really on both sides, but the right side is bothering me. So the Parkinson's is making it worse. And I take medicine every 4 hours. Like when I wake up in the morning, I haven't taken my medicine since 8 o'clock or whatever. And I can only imagine what I look like, but I feel like a pretzel. I mean, just everything's so rigid. And I take the medicine, like 20 minutes later, it's like at least in my mind, it feels like a total new body. Mm-hmm. So, all in all, here I am, 55, and I know we were talking about my dad, and he died at 56. I think, I'm almost there, but I've taken way better care of myself, even though football is not taking real good care of yourself. I can't tell you how many times my dad would come up, say, Dad, I want you to get a physical. He wouldn't have had to wait in line. We could go in the back door.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been the easiest physical ever. And I tried and tried and tried. And so when he died of a heart attack, Of course, I was surprised, but then again, I wasn't. He was stubborn. He was hard-headed. He was that old school mentality. Oh, I ain't going to no damn doctor. You know, all that being said, you know, whoever watches this, if you have a dad like that, or if you yourself are like that, you can't be that way, you know, and you just can't be that way. You got to take care of yourself. You got to get physical. You got to do all those things because there's people counting on you. And if you don't care enough about yourself, care enough about the people around you that want you around. And so my dad and I would go round and round about it. And when he died, I don't think there was ever a time where I felt guilty. You know, I never said, I should have made him go. I can't make a 56-year-old man go get a physical.
Yeah.
I can try. Did I feel, you know, I felt bad, of course, but I really felt like I did all I could do other than handcuffing him and forcing him to go in. Mm-hmm. But I think about, you know, how fast time has flown by. But also, I'm at that age where, you know, when he died, and I don't want to die, not anytime soon. So, and I know my family, at least I don't think they want me to die. You know, my two daughters are constantly take care of yourself and do what you got to do. Now, the Parkinson's is a new element. But,
right.
You know, if there's a cure that comes out in the next 5 years, great. I hear a lot of good things about that, but I'm sure Michael J. Fox, who has raised billions of dollars, probably thought when he was diagnosed in 92, I think, mm-hmm. at 28 years old, that just no big deal. It'll be fixed in 5-10 years. And here he is still fighting it in his 60s. But there's a lot of the new things, good things, that are potentially available within the next year, as I understand it. So the good thing about that is, if that's the case, where I am in the disease is so important. So if you're at a late stage, that's where you're going to stay. Mm-hmm. You're not going to revert back. So if we can get something that at least stops or slows the process in the next 5 years, that would be awesome. Mm-hmm. And I'm hearing that there will be. So in the meantime, one of the things that I've seen 5 specialists, all 5 have said the same thing. Whatever the next doctor told you, you keep doing it. Take the medicine that I take. It's called carbidopa, levodopa. It's a dopamine replacement, synthetic. Gives you 3 hours relief. And then you do it again. So keep doing that. But everyone has said, exercise, exercise, exercise is the number one thing with people with the Parkinson's. When you throw in the towel and say, it's got me, then all hell breaks loose. But because balance is affected, and I've seen a little bit, your cognitive, your memory is affected. I've seen a little bit, but not bad. Rigidity and stiffness is affected. Shaking and tremors is affected. I have the rigidity and stiffness, so that's the dominant symptom. But I feel like when I take a day off, I feel worse. Mm. So, you know, people are like, oh man, you're in better shape than you were when you played. It's not necessarily by design. You know, the fact is, if that's the number one thing to counter having Parkinson's, then I'm going to do it like I was getting ready for the Super Bowl. I'd be a fool not to. Mm-hmm. So the cards that I'm dealt, I just play them.
What scares you the most about this disease and going forward? I've
noticed one of the doctors said, I'm going to ask you about some other symptoms. And prior to that, if you would have said, just give me 3 of the 5 symptoms, I'd have said a little shaking, rigidity and stiffness is a lot of times the average person doesn't notice it. But if I can see someone walking down the street and I can tell you if they have Parkinson's or not. And every doctor that I've talked to has said the same thing. You become a specialist. You'll see the rigidity, the shuffling of the feet. When they turn, it's robotic. It's not fluid. You know, and that's me. But what symptoms have sort of arisen here lately is like I have a hard time swallowing. And one of the doctors just out of the blue said, how's your swallowing? And I was like, it's not as easy as it was. And he said, that's one of the things that is affected. And there's times where I think I'm choking. So it's sort of scary because they can't fix that. And if we go like we're going now, and they're still working on something to slow the disease or stop the progression, great. But if they're still working on it, that means I'm progressing. And where you progress to when that time comes, when they develop something that'll stop it or cure it, that's where you stop. Then you're not going to revert back to day one. So, it's like I try not to think about it. I try to just focus on getting after the day and making the most of each day. But there are often times during the day, maybe at night, when I can decompress, and I think I'm progressing a little bit, because the progression, as I understand it, my doctor said, think about it this way. You see someone you haven't seen in 20 years. They look like they haven't aged a bit. You tell them, hey, you look great. Then you see someone you haven't seen in 3 years and you don't recognize them. They look like a total different person. The disease is that way. There's no way to predict who is going to progress faster than others. We all age differently. So I constantly think about, even though I know I shouldn't, am I going to be the one that ages quicker? Is the disease going to eventually dominate me, where I think right now I'm dominating the disease? At least I feel that way. I think that's a much better thought than the alternative. But again, I wake up every day and think, did I progress 2%? Or am I staying the same? Am I looking into, this progression more than I should? Should I focus? That all those thoughts go through my mind.
And you think about Father Time. You think about your dad at 56, and you think about what this disease is. Like you talked about the cards you're dealt. We all think about our mortality, and there's no guarantees.
Yeah.
Do you think about death? Do you think about what's next? I mean, we remain positive, but then we also have to balance that with reality.
Yeah, I don't know how, every age, I mean, there's no certain age that you hit that when you start thinking about life after, but I think as you get older, and that could be different for everyone, you start thinking about, a better way to explain it, I tell people often that at 30, I had it figured out. At 40, I realized my 30-year-old self had no friggin' clue. But at 50, I was like, 40, you were a dumbass. You just thought you knew. So here I am at 55. I'm certain that 60, if I make 60, I'll think 50-year-old, you didn't, so it's a never-ending saga. But as you get older, things that were important at 21, things that you tell your kids. Same thing I've told my girls. And they're two polar opposite, the girls. One has never met a stranger. She'll talk to anyone. She's the oldest. She got a law degree from Loyola, practiced law for a couple of years. Didn't like it. Super smart. Again, never met a stranger, can talk to anyone. The younger one won't talk to anybody. Very quiet. Equally smart, very timid. But, at 21, at 30, 40, you think something's so important. You have a meltdown over something. And then, I would tell my girls, I'm like, trust me, there'll come a time where you're going to go, I can't believe that I threw a fit over this. And, they don't believe it. And then later on, they're like, you're right. That's the same thing we learn, And so at 55, soon to be 56, I can't help but think about, I believe I have a lot of years left, and I hope that that's the case. But I also want those years to be quality, as best as possible. But at 25 or 30, 35, you don't really think about that.
Right.
You don't want to think about that because you're young. And that means you're thinking you're old and what comes with that. But at some point, you wake up and you go, 20 years have passed and it seemed like 1 year. The next 5 years, they're going, and then if I'm fortunate enough to live 10, 15, 20 more years, I got to believe that's going to get here pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And I better get my shit in order. So I think about it, that's basically how I think about it. Mm-hmm. And not a day goes by where it may be, just a brief thought, or it may be a moment. It may be 5 minutes or something until I go on to the next thing where I'm thinking about what does life look like? I may be on the tractor and I'm thinking, what does 5 years from now look like? I don't see how you can not look at life that way as you get older.
You and Deanna have been through so much publicly, and we saw her standing by your side on that Monday night game in Oakland after your dad died. A year later, she's diagnosed with breast cancer. All of the ups and downs. Privately, I'm sure, because that's how life is. That's how it is when you're married and you have a family. And then this diagnosis. How is Deanna?
She's doing great. She's training right now. I don't know how in the hell she does it, but she's training she scaled back. She's training for a half Ironman. That's in September. She did a full Ironman last September. Usually she signs up for a race a year. And the training is way harder than the race. Like, what do you got today? Well, I got a 100-mile bike ride and a mile swim as a training. I'm like, see you later. So I'll see you at 8 tonight.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So that's her MO. I'll get up and I got up this morning and I got on my stationary bike. That wasn't like, I need to get on my bike. I just jumped on it and I enjoy that. I want to look forward to working out. She's like, I need something to sign up for to motivate me. Yeah. And I get that. I just wish it would be something a little easier on the body. That takes its toll. But she's doing great. She did the chemo, the radiation deal, but there's a lot to be said for being young and healthy when you face those challenges. But that time in our life was Lost my dad. Deanna gets diagnosed with breast cancer. Her brother is killed on our property, tragically, a four-wheeler accident. In fact, he was killed and her cancer diagnoses were less than a week apart. So, you know, and I've talked about this publicly to a lot of people in groups. We're not, you know, celebrities are no different than anyone else. Bad stuff happens. Good stuff happens. You're lucky. At times you're unlucky. You know, just because you're on TV or you're, you know, a celebrity or popular doesn't mean everything is okay. You know, we all face those challenges. And so, you know, she's faced her challenges and our family challenges way stronger and defiant than I could ever do it.
How is
You
she with this?
women are strong.
I know we are sometimes too much, I think.
Well,
But that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it's almost like it's innate as a mother, as a wife. I mean, we're nurturers. And so when the love of her life is diagnosed with Parkinson's, I'm guessing she's still Deanna. She's her caretaker. She probably wants to fix it. How is she handling
you know,
this?
this really is funny. Some people may not find it funny, but it is funny. So 2 years ago, actually January, let's say January 1st, just for easy, we'll make 2 years. So it's been about a year and a half. My buddy, I was off on a deer hunt with he's my golfing buddy, he's my hunting buddy, but also he's my back doctor. So we go up and we hunt with a friend of ours in Illinois, and he had some stuff that he wanted me to sign, some memorabilia for some of his coworkers. So I said, "Sure, Bill." I start signing, and I'm shaking. No one knows I have Parkinson's, including me. I'm shaking a little bit, not bad. And I said, "Forgive my handwriting." And again, I'm not thinking anything of it. I said, "I got a little shaking deal that happens and it affects my writing." And at the time, when I was saying that, there were two things that I had noticed that even though I noticed it and thought something was a little unusual, I wasn't thinking anything of it. I just thought, you get older, you pick up these quirky habits. The first one was I would be walking through the house or walking outside and my arm would be stuck just like this. Now, when I would notice it, I was like, "That's weird." I'd put my arm down and I would swing it just like normal. And then when I would forget about it, it was right back there. Wow. That was the first thing. Didn't hurt, wasn't like stuck and I couldn't unstuck it. It was just a quirky habit, I thought. The second thing was dexterity in my right hand. So pretty much everything, I'm dominant right-handed. Text, screwdriver, pick up something on the floor, was always right-handed. Well, if you handed me a jacket, long sleeve jacket, and I haven't taken medicine. Of course, at the time, before I was diagnosed, I didn't know. But when I would be putting that jacket on, you would probably say, "What in the hell's wrong with him?" I feel my arm. It's not like I don't have any feeling, but I cannot guide it down the hole. Or if you dropped a dime, and I say a dime, a quarter is a little easier to get a fingernail on. But if I try to pick it up with my right hand, I may sit there for 5 minutes, and eventually you would be like, "I'll get it for you," or my left hand would get it. That was the second thing. But again, I wasn't thinking I got Parkinson's. I just thought, something quirky I picked up, But there was something in the back of my mind. My my buddy who was a back surgeon, has a little small plane. He flew us up there. And on the flight back, I had the headphones on. I said, Jay, can you set me up an MRI over at Southern Bone and Joint where he works? They have a hospital. And he said, yeah, what now? And I said, my head. And he started laughing. He said, well, they ain't going to find nothing. You're joking around. And I said, I'm serious. And he said, what's the problem? And I kind of told him the symptoms. And he's like, no big deal. But yeah, so he set it up. I did the MRI. My general doctor, I told him about it. And this was a Monday morning. My general doctor said, you need to see a neuro doctor. That's not my expertise, but don't sound too bad. So I go see the neuro, and he diagnoses me within 5 minutes that I had Parkinson's. So when he says, you got Parkinson's, my exact response was, you have to be shitting me. And he goes, nope, see it all the time. 100% you got it. We did an alpha-synuclein biopsy, which is a new test, but it only confirmed what he said. And I did a cognitive memory test that lasted 9 hours. And that also proved that it's Parkinson's. And I scored high, which ruled out Lewy body. Mm-hmm. When he said it ruled out Lewy body, I go, okay, what's Lewy body? He said, you'd be dead in 2 years. And I was like, thank God you didn't tell me that prior. But anyway, I go home. This was a Monday morning. I get the news. I go out in my truck. I sit in my truck for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, what in the hell just happened? Yesterday, the last thing I thought was a neurological. I'm thinking life's over. And my doctor, when he told me you got Parkinson's, he said, look, we're going to be okay. We'll manage it. You're not going to die from it. You may die from complications, but a lot of people live a long time. We want to maximize your quality of life, and we can do that. No, he was reassuring, but I get in the truck and I'm like, this is, I wasn't expecting this. So I go home and I walk in the bedroom. Deanna and my youngest daughter were in the bathroom talking. And I walk in and I said, I got Parkinson's. Deanna's like, I don't even know if she heard the Parkinson's part. She was like, what are you doing in here? And I was like, I came to tell you I got Parkinson's. And she's like, what are you talking about? And now that I look back, imagine, her like, where's this coming from? It was Monday morning at 8:00. And I said, I just left the doctor. And she's like, wait, what made you go get checked? Who was the, like, she's trying to sort all this out. And I said, well, I had these symptoms, if you want to call it, for a while. And I said, you didn't notice them? And she's like, I see you every day. And that's the problem. Yeah. You see someone every day, they're normal to you. But on occasion, when I would see someone, I'd go in a restaurant or something and I hadn't seen someone hey, Brett, you look stiff. Well, when I look back at some of the videos, my right side, how could anyone not see the rigidity? But again, when you're living that every day, that's normal. And I was able to function. I biked, I played golf, I did yard work. We went on hikes. So I thought everything was fine.
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny. I was like, I just saw the doctor. He just diagnosed me with Parkinson's. And that's the deal. She's like, I don't believe it. And finally she, I was like, you've never noticed any symptoms? And she's like, no. Now, after the fact, she, now she knows what to look for. Yeah. And she'll see. I'm like, maybe it's time for your medicine. Because my arm, if I get up, and I took medicine right before I came in here, so I'm usually good. But if I get up and walk out and I don't think about it, and you happen to see my arm, you'd be like, it's time for his medicine.
Wow.
Because when I take the medicine for about 3.5 hours, my arm is normal. The rigidity is virtually normal. But as it gets closer to the end of the dose,
okay,
I'm like, it must be time for my medicine because I'm feeling rigid. My arms or my dexterity.
Yeah.
Like I can write. If I take the medicine and 20 minutes later, I can write a lot better than 3 hours later. I can fit a 150-page book. Now I'm stretching the truth a little bit. I write, it gets tinier and tinier. And it's just like,
wow.
So that's just part of it. There's certain things that people with Parkinson's do. And
you said you ride your stationary bike. So physically, what can't you do anymore?
Run. Prior to the hip replacement, I was running in half marathons. And if you'd have told me when I retired that I would run, period, especially if no one was chasing me, I would have said, you're out of your mind. But it was a good change up to biking. For so long, you had to lift weights. You had to run stadiums. You had to, and I kind of, when I retired, I'll lift a little bit, but it's more of just maintaining, keeping the joints and all that active and under load. But the running, I would say, other than running, I can pretty much do what I want. I just no pounding for the joints and my back. But biking, we'll go on hikes when we go, out to the mountains. That can be a little bit, a little tougher. But all in all, I think I'm pretty free to do just about whatever.
Awesome.
Can't complain.
You mentioned earlier the 1,500 sacks, and you've publicly spoken, obviously, about the concussions and probably that you experienced thousands of them from, playing as a kid, high school, college, obviously, in the pros. And then in this conversation talking about, what happened at second base that time and get up. You get up and you keep going. Now, and I know, hey, these are the cards we're dealt and life is life. But how much have you thought back on those days when you knew you were dinged up more than probably you should have been in order to continue, but you did. You kept going. Like, do you look back on that and regret forcing yourself every single time to get back up?
I don't regret. And also, if I had it to do over again, I don't know if I would have done it any different. I think there's a couple of different times where I went back in with a head injury. That the smart thing, the very smart thing to do, based on what we know now, would be not to go back in.
Yeah.
Those few moments, which may be 2 times that, I think that I probably should have stayed out versus, I don't know how many plays, I played. And pretty much every time you get hit, it hurts. Some hurt worse than others. Sometimes something breaks, sometimes something tears, sometimes it bruises. But as far as anything below the neck, I don't think I would do it any differently. I think when I went back in and played, the strange thing is 99.9% of the time when I played after a major injury, like, for example, I had a separated shoulder, my left shoulder. Reggie White did it my second year. We played him in Milwaukee when he was at Philly. Major injury. The following week, I play outstanding. I break my thumb against St. Louis in St. Louis. The following week, we play Minnesota on Monday Night Football in Minnesota. We had very little success there, even with a good thumb. And I end up playing maybe the best game at Minnesota ever. So I say that because it would be easy to say, don't play.
Right.
Because you may not play that well. And it may cost you a job. Where I would say, hell, the last 5 times I had an injury, I played better than I've ever played before. So, I think I would do it the same way I did it. Knowing what concussions can do to you. There's no way to definitively say Parkinson's is from concussions. Mm-hmm. But it don't take a rocket scientist to say, if I were a betting man, that's where I would say you got it. Or definitely some of it came from, you wrote the book on head injuries. So that, when I had a conversation with Dr. Benjamin Amalu, who Will Smith played in the movie Concussion, I asked him, when is a good time to play tackle football? And he said, never. Not a human. He said, but to answer your question, I know that there's going to be football played no matter what. The youth shouldn't play tackle until 18. Give the skull time to. Some people, some places do flag football, some places play tackle. I would eliminate tackle football until they get to like 11th and 12th grade.
So as a senior in high school,
I would nobody plays tackle until 17 or 18 years old. And if everyone would adhere to that, you wouldn't be behind. You can practice fundamentals and teach without jeopardizing the future of your youth. But I think, I don't know how many plays I played in, but there were a few times after a major concussion, I say a major concussion, where I maybe blacked out for a second or two, which is not good, as we know now. But at the time, you kind of, your head's buzzing, you're getting up off the ground, you're kind of fuzzy, you don't know what really happened, but it's getting clear. You go back to the huddle, by the time you run the next play, you're back to what you could consider normal. As I talked to Dr. Amalu, he was like, that's second impact syndrome. If you go back and you get another ding, really bad things happen. Really bad things. On top of the first concussion to begin with. But when he told me, he said, how many concussions do you think you've had? And I really had never thought of it at that point. I said, I think 3. And he kind of laughed. And he said, 3. What are you saying was a concussion? I said, well, when I blacked out or kind of forgot, or I maybe was able to play the next play, but I was a little fuzzy. And he said, how about this? How many times did you get tackled, or you tripped, or you fell and you saw stars, or you heard ringing in the ears, or a little, you shake the cobwebs out? And I said, pretty much every time I was tackled or I fell. And he said, that's a concussion. God. And that is what does the damage. He said, Muhammad Ali, how many times did you see him just get drilled? Very rarely. He goes, exactly. But he got jab, 200 jabs, or what, however many that it does serious damage. And he said, you've probably had thousands of ringing in the ears, or fireworks, and no telling what toll that it will take. And that's frightening, very frightening. So I have 3 grandsons. I have never once said, are you guys going to play football? Now, if either one of them came to me and said, "Will you help me? I want to play," I would. I would try to help.
But
But
would you
I'm not
keep
going to
them?
encourage them
Yeah.
to play if they don't. I mean, if they want to play, by all means play.
Would you let them play tackle?
Well, that would be up to their mom and dad, but I would be, they're 15, 12, and 8. The 8-year-old, definitely not. The 12-year-old, if I had any say, I would say no. And I know everyone else is tackling, which is the problem. If everyone would say flag football until 16, you're going to eliminate a lot. And you may save the quality of life for one kid, because what they know about concussions, and there's not a lot, as I understand it, the chances of, with each concussion, the chances of the neurological disease, ALS,
Yeah.
Dementia, Alzheimer's, all goes up. So you think about, you have 500, you have 1,000. You can't help but wonder what the future holds. And that had crossed my mind prior to a Parkinson's diagnosis. But the diagnosis really sort of turbocharged, what else? Hopefully this is it,
Mm-hmm.
So there's that conversation you have with yourself is like, okay, I can deal with Parkinson's. I just don't want anything else.
Yeah. You've chosen to be super vocal about it before the diagnosis, as you've discussed. So what is that hope, going forward where, okay, yes, look at me, right? I was one of the all-time greats and will always remain that way. And part of that is the toughness.
Yeah.
Part of that is a consecutive streak
Blessing
of
and the
290.
curse.
Yeah, 297 straight games. That was a choice. That toughness that was instilled in you as a kid. And if you feel something, say something. Like, what is the balance that you're trying to teach kids? Because sometimes it isn't up to the coach or the parent. They don't feel what you feel. Mm-hmm. So we have to rewire the kids, right, to be their own advocate. So if your 15-year-old grandson says, I want to play, what are you telling him?
Well, if he said, would you, I want to play quarterback. I want to play. Will you teach me the ins and outs of it? And if they're all playing tackle, his age group, you got no choice. You either keep him out. So I mean that would be a decision his mom and dad would have to make.
I'm sure they would talk to you though. Your daughter.
I would say play golf. Honestly, that's what I would say. Baseball. You can get a concussion in anything. You can trip and fall. You can get a concussion. You can slip on ice. You can get a concussion. But you lower the chances if you don't play tackle football, especially young. A 15-year-old doesn't know, he's going to have a little, makes a tackle or gets tackled. He's going to have a little ringing in the ears, but he's not going to know, is that a calling card for something down the road that could be, very serious? No. He's looking at the cheerleaders, he's shaking off the cobwebs. He's got a coach yelling at him. He's trying to, so we have to protect them.
Right.
We have to protect them. And I feel like, I don't feel like, life for me after football, God is saying, you stand up for concussions. But I think the way I played, you said it, I spoke out before I was diagnosed. So when I'm diagnosed, it sort of adds credibility. Like, told you.
Yeah.
And not that I wanted Parkinson's, not that I hoped I had Parkinson's, but the fact that I have it does nothing but solidify, my stance on protecting our our youth and our brains in general. I would love to see the NFL put more money into research for a cure or treatment.
For Parkinson's?
For concussions in general.
Okay.
If they're paid billions out for a settlement, put that into, something that, for lack of a better term, and this is, I've talked to a lot of specialists, by no means my neurologist, but for lack of a better term, a concussion is swelling of the brain. So if you think you had a concussion or someone thinks you've had a concussion, what's the best thing to do, in my mind, is alleviate the inflammation. Well, there's nothing to alleviate the inflammation. They come out with better helmets and better rules, but the numbers really are not going down. So why don't you have something that, if you think a kid or an adult has a concussion, you give this nasally or orally or injection that stops the inflammation. And to me, that's the best route to go. Spending more money on helmets that doesn't stop the brain from moving. And that's what I try to explain to people. If I headbutt that wall, my head is going to stop when it hits that wall, but my brain's going to keep moving. And when the brain when it stops, there's the bruising and the inflammation. So I don't care how good your helmets are. It doesn't stop the brain from moving when the head stops. And so, I sort of feel, I don't feel like I have to do it, but I feel like the way I played and what has happened to me, I'm the perfect person to speak up for safety. I love the game. We wouldn't be talking right now if it wasn't for football. It has brought a lot of great things with it, some negative things, the ailments and things like that, that's part of it. But I think that, I played the game a certain way, and I don't know if I would play it any different, but I think that it gives me a voice that is respected in that realm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the positives are endless. And the negatives, I think, are something that sometimes fairly get blown up, other times unfairly. I twice have watched the Netflix documentary, Untold. And your perspective, I guess, depends on who's watching and what perspective they have before, during, and after that. What stood out to me is that the controversy when you're with the New York Jets, the controversy here in Hattiesburg with the welfare situation in the university is all one-sided. Everybody, you got crushed in that documentary. Mm-hmm. At the end, it said, we asked Brett Favre for an interview, and he said no. Why did you decide to not?
Well, they didn't ask, first of all, but if they would have, I would have said no. First of all, that was almost 20 years ago. It's like, are you that desperate that you got to rehash something that has been dealt with and moved on from? In the welfare deal, I'm still under a gag order, unfortunately, that has been in place for probably 4 years now. So I can't defend myself even if I wanted to. But I know this, and this may come out before this is cleared up, but I know this, the truth will come out. I can't talk about it right now, but for those who jump ship and call me everything in the book, you're going to be sadly, your view of me may not change. I don't know. That's up to you. But your view of me being a criminal or whatever will definitely change. Yeah. For the haters out there, I think about it sometimes and be like, damn, I thought he did it or wanted me to do it. But again, the truth will come out. And it sucks because I can't talk about what I know. And what has been out there is only a small part of allegedly what has been misspent or but because of there's 47 people named as defendants in this. There's only one person you hear about, and that's me.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It sucks for my family, but I'm a big boy. I can handle it, and I know the truth will come out. And I look forward to the day where I can actually tell the gist of, and I think you and everyone else will be like, you got to be kidding me.
Did you watch it?
No.
Why?
I don't know why I needed to. Mm-hmm. First of all, I knew what they were talking about and very little of the welfare because the people involved in the welfare can't talk.
Right.
So you can assume, you can make a program with assumptions, but if you want the true facts and if you really are in it, whether it be Netflix or anyone else, if you're really in it to be unbiased, which they're not going to do that because, if they really research and get some people to talk, they're going to find out that it's not as juicy a story as, we had hoped.
Yeah.
Because it sure looks, a headline that, former quarterback makes all this money and all this glitz and glamour, and then he steals welfare money. That's a great headline if you're in the business of headlines, but it ain't true. And what kills me, I'm not surprised, but what kills me is there are reporters that know, especially in this state, that I don't know personally, but I know of, that know the truth, but refuse, unless they're made to, which they're not going to be made. They're not going to tell you. I mean, they have that right now, they could change it. They could print something today that would tell you a lot of things that you wouldn't know about the case that would shed light in a positive way on me. But I think you lose the clickbaits by doing that.
These are people that you've known for a long time, some of them, and have chosen to stay silent or write something the opposite. Yeah.
At this point, nothing surprises me.
Yeah.
And no one, and I'm not surprised by, people you think are in your corner. A lot of them are still in my corner and have been. Those that I thought were in my corner, and I would never ask anyone to print anything that would make me look good but not be true.
Right.
All I ask is if you, an unbiased, either factual opinion, where you do your homework, or my opinion just solely based on knowing me and what type of person I am, so you find out, the old saying, find out who your friends are. It's hard to believe, but this has been going on for 7 years. 2018, and pretty much going around town and go out and eat. We do things, and people are very respectful. The people that know me and know that I would never do the things that they said I've done, and know that there's more to the story than what you're hearing and what you're reading.
Is that hard though, to have to keep your mouth shut?
I'm over the hump now. But it is so hard. Is you get comments from people on social media, and I know the best thing to do is not to comment. But sometimes I want to just say, you are such a dumb, people they don't want to do their research. You can actually go to the courthouse in Jackson, Hinds County, and get all the records. Now, would I want to do that? No. But if I was if I was a reporter and I wanted to see for myself what it is and what it's all about, and have an unbiased, here's what I got based on my research. If you really wanted to do that, you can, first of all the records of everything that's been said and done is on record. Doesn't cost you a dime unless you drive over. As far as I know, no one's done that. Or maybe they've done that, but didn't get the answer that they wanted. So, because I've said multiple times, whether I'm speaking, I spoke to a touchdown luncheon in Arkansas last year, a Razorback luncheon, and said basically the same thing. You can, if you want to know the truth, I can't tell you based on this gag order, but you can go at the courthouse or online, and you can find out what he said or she said, or get the, rather than one excerpt from a text thread, you can get the whole deal that puts a lot more in context than one. If I said, I could kill so-and-so to you in a text, I mean, you could, or a prosecutor could later say, look, he threatened murder, when it's it's just slang, it's figure of speech.
Right.
Well, that's the case with, they took little bits and pieces out of text threads and make it look, like, oh, that's going to look good by itself. But if you look at the rest of it, you go, that makes perfect sense why he said what he said. That's what I'm fighting right now. And I'm handcuffed. My attorneys are handcuffed. We've been ready to go to trial from day one. We have nothing to hide. We're ready to fight. And, it seems like we're ready, and everyone else is like, the longer it goes by, the less people remember me or my involvement. But I'm the one that, I'm sure a lot of these defendants are like, I'm glad Brett's in it.
Yeah.
Because you never hear my name.
No other names. I've not heard a single name. Does it bother you that you could look at it like, okay, because so much time has gone by and you haven't been able to speak about it or defend yourself, that you are viewed differently? Your legacy as, yes, an incredible football player, a Hall of Famer, but also a good guy, is being affected by this.
Yeah. I think one thing that I often think about, and right or wrong, we all, have thoughts and actions and stuff that we wish we didn't, or just, they are what they are. And so, like, for me, I think people, the haters out there think, well, he didn't get arrested because he's a hotshot quarterback. Well, I didn't get arrested because I never stole anything. And that's the truth. But again, you can go research that on your own. And, I've said that oftentimes, maybe a comment. I'm like, look, rather than make these ridiculous comments that you're making, why don't you do your research and then come back and tell me if you still feel the same way. But, 9 times out of 10, that's not going to happen because it's juicier the way that they envision it. And that pisses me off. But Also know that not everybody's going to like you, even if you've never had a hiccup in your life. Somebody's going to, dislike you because you're successful,
Yep.
or because you're a nice guy, or because you got something that they don't. It's human nature. And I know, like for me, there's a lot of flaws with me. And I need to focus on me and not focus on other people and their flaws. And I try to do that. A lot of this world, as you know, worry about everybody else's flaws. So rather than, at this point, it's gone on for so long. It's like, I know it's going to get resolved, but I'm like, when I get to tell my story, people probably be so unaffected by it and moved on that, not that I can control that, but
Yeah.
I do want the truth to get out. Not that it's going to change the way I live, but, I don't like that hanging over my head because it's just not true.
Mm-hmm. And then you decide to go out on the campaign trail and support Donald Trump. Which, as we know, is controversial and, oh my gosh, gets you cut off from certain parts of the world, the way people handle it, if you associate yourself with this president. Why did you decide to be vocal about your support for him before the election?
Well, Sage, we've done several things together, and really, we were doing Jason when the fever pitch was starting to get at an all-time high. Like, you either hated Trump or you absolutely loved him and hated the people that hated Trump. But, like for me, my youngest daughter would say, "Dad, don't say nothing." My oldest daughter's like, she's a former attorney. She's never met a stranger. She's like, let him have it. I feel like, and I believe this is the truth, that the Republican or the conservative, and I hate to even say Republican, more common sense.
Yeah.
Just
totally.
Don't even pick sides. Just think about it from a common sense perspective. Some of the things that you're actually on the left that you're saying is normal. Do you not ever look in the mirror when no one's looking and it's just you, and you go, are we out of our damn mind? So I felt like the conservative, just the conservative crowd in general sits on their hands and I think at times I was like this, you just expect people to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And to make common sense decisions. And so sit on your hands and expect that, and it doesn't happen, and it continues to get worse. And then the left has no problem talking. They don't shut up. And they blame it all on everyone else. And I'm thinking, if we don't start standing up and defending ourselves, not that we should have to, it is what it is. If we don't start taking a stand, we're going to get dominated.
Yep.
And so that's really what, I thought about the rally in Green Bay when he asked if I would come talk. There was those that said, people throw daggers at you anyway. They're really going to throw daggers at you. So I thought about it, and I weighed the pros and cons. And if I really thought, Sage, that I don't know if I'm going to influence it. At this point, there's been a hard line drawn in the sand. And you're either on one side or the other, at that point. And that very well may be true. But I thought about, if you persuaded 5 voters, and that, who knows, it may be a 5-vote difference, then I would be beside myself if I didn't take advantage of that.
Yeah.
It wasn't my cup of tea. I'm not a public speaker. I'm certainly not a political public speaker. But it was an honor that I was asked. And do I agree with everything President Trump says or does? No. Does he agree with everything I do? No. Nor with anyone on the other side.
Right.
But from a common sense perspective, do you really think boys should compete in girl sports? And that's fair? No. You know, and the illegal,
the border,
crime and things that is because of it.
Yeah.
How can you think that's okay? I mean, I'm all for doing the right thing for people, but you know, we have to protect our own first.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just felt like, not that, you know, I've had people say, why don't you run for governor of Wisconsin? I'm not running for governor. I'm not running for office. I would like to just fade off into the sunset and enjoy life. But we got to fight.
We do.
I mean, I don't know. I'd love to sugarcoat it, but they ain't going away.
But that's why, to me, just the visual of you standing up there and standing up for what you believe, even if someone else, you know, you can't fully convince them to vote the way you do, whatever it is. The point is that you were no longer quiet and true to yourself and your beliefs, and that's okay. You don't have to just think one way to be allowed to speak. And I feel like that's why it was so refreshing for many people. And hey, people hated it as well, right? I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, just stick to sports, Brett.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Back in the day, yes, we said that.
No, you're right.
And now it's over.
That's the key point in all this. Like, there was a time maybe you stuck to your deal, whether it be football, media, you know, you're CEO of a company that you know, teeters on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
But at this point, you know, I felt like it's time, the gloves have to come off. And I know the backlash, you know, I knew there was going to be, you know, haters getting in line. And the comments came and all that stuff, but there was a lot of positive. And again, it's really, I'm from the common sense part.
Yes.
You know,
I thought more were. Apparently not. And I actually think about the overall demographic of the National Football League, the viewers and all the fans. That's helping everybody make millions and billions of dollars. And I still think there's work to be done in the NFL. And we still continue to have end zones painted, you know, end racism. Okay, yeah, we know very few people want there to be racism. Like, what does the NFL need to do
I
to
think
restore
they're
common
stirring the pot
sense?
Still. I think they're, well, I don't know this. I mean, no one calls me from the NFL, and that's fine. I don't expect them to. You know, no one asks my advice. That's fine. I don't expect them to. But I feel like you're maintaining a divisive stance where they may say, well, we're trying to bring everyone together. No, that's not bringing everyone together. You know, like you said, there's a lot of things in this world and in this country that we could be better at. And I think we continue to get better at certain things. But you're creating more division by talking about a problem that I'm not going to say is not still a problem, racism. But I think you can do more by not talking about it and talking about unity and what we've done and how far we've come. You know, there's those that they're going to say, you know, I face this all the time, and you know, kudos to the NFL. But I think most people are over and beyond that.
Yeah.
And I feel like the league is the league of divisiveness.
It wasn't like that when you played, I feel like, when you won your Super Bowl.
Yeah, and really, up until my last year, I mean, politics were really not a part of.
Yeah.
Honestly, there was never any talk in the locker room, and that's not that long ago in some respects. I don't remember ever there being a political argument, or even close to, a political argument, because that was never. I don't even know if the term conservative, Republican, Democrat ever came up in the locker room. We didn't know the difference. But funny how far we've come in a short amount of time. And it just, to me, if their intentions are really noble, I think that they can do it a different way. I really do.
I think common sense is something that we all should be striving for. And when you stick to that, some of these answers are really basic. I'm all for, at this point, athletes speaking up and giving opinions. Let's do it based on facts, though.
Correct.
And that's been the problem with me. And so I don't need to go through the litany of players who have said things and given opinions. Great, you can have that. But if it's not based in fact, I don't respect you, actually. I don't respect that opinion. And I think, especially in the NBA, I think that's an issue.
Yeah, I try not to talk about stuff that I really don't know a lot about.
Yeah.
Because you're opening yourself up to, and deservingly so.
Yeah.
If you're going to speak up on something you really don't know a lot about, there ain't many good things that come out of that. And so,
But some people are allowed to get away with that. If you're on the left and you're an athlete and you're speaking up about any topic, really, it's fine. It's good. He can give it. If you're on the right, if you're Saquon Barkley, who is a fine young man, much less an athlete, and wanted to play golf with the sitting president of the United States, and that's a bad thing. If it were Obama, it was fine. If it was Biden, it was fine. So I think that's where I've mouthed off a little bit.
You can't be the conservative athlete.
Right.
And like you said, either make a comment or your actions are not in line with the left. They're going to call you everything in the book, and you're going to tell me or tell you that you're the right party. Because and you're right. I've never met Saquon. I've seen some of his interviews. He's a tremendous player, but he seems like a standout young man. Why don't you focus on that?
Yeah.
What he's done for the game, what he's done for people. His service to the public. And he seems like a very smart kid that's got his head on. He must have been raised right.
Mm-hmm.
And those type of people, whether you're black, you're white, you're Hispanic, those people are the ones who's punished, maybe not in time out, but called bad words.
They're attacked. Yeah.
I thought you were about, racism being over and all, but you're ripping this black guy because he wouldn't play golf with. Who are you to say and do what you say and do?
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
But that's why you needed to do what you did, in my opinion.
And I think more people need to.
Yes.
We don't need to fight. We don't need to get the North versus the South, Civil War. And maybe that's what it comes to at some point. I hope not. But, I think more people need to speak up for just common sense, stuff that you don't have to think much about.
Yeah.
Just the everyday stuff, and just say, this is ridiculous. This could be solved if we just do the right thing.
That's my prayer. And I think it's most normal people, frankly, here in this country. That's all we want. It's okay to be different, but let's do it with kindness and base it in facts, and then I'm good. I love word association. So I'll just give you a couple names, and first thought that comes to mind.
All right.
Tom Brady.
The best. Yeah.
Best, all-time best, the GOAT.
How can you deny, his Super Bowl rings? And Joe Montana was fantastic and about as flawless as you can get. I just think Tom, I marveled at his decision making, and he always threw. It was always accurate. It was like crap. Even if a guy came free and was unblocked, he never got rattled, and he made the. It was like he always made the right read, and a very accurate throw. Mm-hmm. And so it was like you never could, even when you got him, you didn't get him. So I mean, give the guy his due.
Yep, Drew Brees.
I think Drew, incredible player, and probably, and I don't know this for certain. And Drew and I, we don't talk often, but I would consider him a good friend. He's one of those that I didn't get a lot of scholarship offers. I got one, but Drew was small, undersized, average arm strength at best, and to have every passing record, and he still has a bunch, considering that he probably got overlooked because of his size and stature and strength. And, he would be like, I'm going to take Favre first because he's got a better arm. He's probably picked last, but yet it's a lesson to everyone that if you persevere and work hard and believe in yourself, you can do wonderful things. And Drew did it as good as anyone. The only thing he didn't do that Tom Brady did is he didn't win as many Super Bowls. I suppose I could say the same, but he threw a lot less interceptions than I did.
Peyton Manning.
He's kind of like the professor of the class. He's a cerebral, person, but also a player. He was constantly mentally challenging himself. And I know the Manning family fairly well. Was always a huge fan of Archie. But Peyton did it, like a professor in physics. I mean, he sliced and diced. And he did, if you remember back in his heyday, he's making all these calls and hand signals. And I remember asking him after we were done playing, so what the hell were you doing? And he said, nothing. It was smoke and mirrors. Sometimes he changed the play, but most of the time it was just smoke and mirrors. And I was like, that's ingenious. It really is, because I'm thinking, is this guy that talented that he's changing the play every time? And so he had, imagine a defense coordinator. It's like, he knows everything we're doing, when really he didn't. He made you think that.
Yep.
So he was definitely a brain surgeon.
Aren't those the three guys that kicked you out of first place for passing yards?
I think so.
Yeah. Damn.
But you know what, Sage? When I left the game, when I retired, I had every passing record.
Yes, you did.
In the NFL. And I, believe it or not, it crossed my mind. I thought it wasn't like I had reached the mountaintop because I got every passing record. But you think back, all the stuff we talked about, we're running the Wishbone High School, and I can throw the hell out of the ball, just not in the game. For me, and I've started 4 years at Southern Miss. We didn't throw it a lot, not like they throw it now. But and I always thought highly of myself that I could make it. That don't mean you will make it, but I always thought I could. But I never thought I would have every passing record in the NFL. I never thought I'd play 20 years. I thought I would play. But so when I look back, or right when I retired and I look back, I thought, I didn't think I got every passing record. I hope that, everyone else falters and I keep it. Just the fact that I had it can give hope to any other person out there in a small town America that the mountain seems too big to climb. If you just persevere and be determined, it can happen. And so
Yeah.
I don't think, damn, my yardage got passed up. I think, I can't believe I had it. And I mean, everything that happened in a good way throughout my career, I would be like, this is amazing. I thought a lot of myself, and I thought I could make it, but I didn't think about Pro Bowls. I didn't think about Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I didn't think about MVPs. I thought about running out of the tunnel and then calling my name out, what that would be like, and competing in the National Football League. And so all the other stuff, as they say, is gravy.
Yeah. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron is I played with him for 3 years. Tremendous talent. If you see him in person, he's not imposing. He's not tall. He's not physically gifted. And I don't mean that negatively. But he had probably the only guy that could throw it with me, I would say equal to.
The arm strength.
Arm strength and quick release.
Yeah.
But thing about Aaron, and I think the people who know him really well certainly know this, but people that don't know him, what would surprise them, he's got his IQ, whether it be football or off the field, book, just knowledge, is off the charts. Yeah. And he, when he came in with me, I was probably in year 10, 11, 12, something like that. 13, I think it was 13 because my last 3, he was there. But I was amazed at his football IQ, and he just knew, kind of like at Brady, you'd never seen him make a bad decision. It was like they were always a step ahead of you. I played the game like it was Pee Wee football, and you're on the playground, and you got everyone screaming, "I'm open." That's where I thrive. I never really learned the game from a from all right, if they do this, you do that. And if they don't do this, I want you to do that. And if they blitz, you throw it here. Yeah, I never played the game that way. I never really was taught until I got to the pros. So I was always impressed when I saw guys like never get flustered. When teams would blitz against me, we may have had it picked up or we may not. I wasn't waiting around them. I remember Holmgren would say, "Where are you going?" And I said, "They blitzed." He goes, "We had it picked up." And I'm like, "Easy for you to say." My ass is getting out of there. Yes. They would make decisions. It was like they didn't get rattled, and the guy would come free and almost get them, and they'd make a good throw. And Aaron was as good at that. He threw 40 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, like every year. That's incredible. I could throw 6 in 8 throws. I was known for it. So you would think tip balls, or you get hit in the back, the ball pops up, but it was like bad things never happened to him. And his intellect was always a step ahead of you.
Do you wish he would have hung it up already? I mean, he's 41, and now Pittsburgh.
I suppose they could have said the same thing for me.
They did, a couple of them.
I think last year he proved that physically he was okay.
Yeah.
And that maybe, and I don't know, I haven't talked to him, but I think that for him said, I can still play.
Yeah.
Do I want to go out like with the Achilles, or do I want to go out a ho-hum year with the Jets? I'm sure he would say, like any of us would say, I can still play. I'm running out of time. I don't want to get hurt. whether it be, major injury or whatever. But I'd like to kind of dictate how I go out. And that doesn't necessarily mean a Super Bowl. So I think I'm not surprised. And really, more than anything, watching him play last year, I said, that dude still got juice in the tank.
Yeah.
And then I said, I don't see him. I don't know who will sign him, but I don't see him. If there's a huge decline in his play, I think he's a smart enough guy that would say, it's time. Mm-hmm. And I knew my last year that I went back my 20th year. Yeah, I knew. People said, how do you know? Well, I would drop back and would feel, the train of thought was no different than year 1, 5, 10. I would feel a guy coming from my backside, and in my mind, I would say, duck. I would get drilled, and then I would try to duck.
Timing.
So I was like,
a little slower.
My mind and my body are on 2 different time zones, mm-hmm. and it's time. So, so I think this year will be very revealing for Aaron. If he plays well, they do okay. He may come back. He gets beat up. They finish almost 500. You got to start looking at the end.
That's the problem. Is Tom Brady played till he was 85. So then everybody else is like, no. Especially when you have it here, but it's can the body keep up? Finally, Brett Favre.
Simple but complicated. I think it certainly gives hope to a lot of people that you don't have to be considered the best from day one to make it. I played a small town. Back then, my graduating class was 100. We never threw the ball. I'm just giving you reasons why I shouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
But yet I did. And I talked to elementary school, Picayune High School, which is interestingly, it's about an hour. It's 20 minutes from where I grew up. And it's Jimmy Johnson, the great Dallas, his first head coaching job was at Picayune High School. Mm. He went 0-10. But anyway, I'm talking to the elementary kids last Monday. And we talked about that. I said, look, I went to school at Hancock right down the road from here. All those kids know it. And I said, I wasn't a big shot. You know me as a professional quarterback, and that's a big deal. But there was a time, I was the 3rd best in the county. And, my lesson to you is it can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
And so when I think about my career, it wasn't, I'd like to have won more Super Bowls. I would like to have thrown less interceptions. But all in all, I played the game the way I think most people appreciate it. I certainly played it only way I knew how. And that, when I hear people say, or the best way I can explain it, like if I would want people watching me in the stands to say, if I could play, I would play just like him. That guy plays with a lot of heart. He plays he plays like he loves it. And he loves his teammates. And people appreciate that. Whether you're a fan or not, it doesn't really matter. I just want people to say he was fun to watch. So I think I succeeded.
Yeah, you did. And I hope you know how much joy that you brought to so many. Yes, the teammates, I'm sure, because I was not in those locker rooms. But that's what it felt like as a fan, a viewer, and a journalist watching it. You brought so much joy.
Well, thank you. And I think the greatest compliment is when you see your former teammates.
Yeah. And
getting back to the Netflix thing, they tried to interview, and I know because most of them reached out to me. Mm. They tried to interview them to get them to say bad things. And none of the teammates that I played with would do it. Now, you would think you'd find one teammate that thinks I'm a scumbag. But I take a lot of pride in, look, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I take a lot of pride in my teammates and our friends or family. You know, all those are important to me. And I love my teammates like I love my family and friends. And when they speak or don't speak on my behalf, that is the biggest, like, it doesn't get any better than that. So
That's 20 years of teammates.
20 years, a lot of teammates.
A lot of people, and
Yeah.
not one would do it because they know who you are as a human being. And I think sometimes we forget that. Thank you for so much time today. I owe you big, but thank you
No, you
for
don't owe me nothing.
thank you for what you've done for so many people. The young man, Brian, the 18-year-old that you brought here to Southern Miss, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people praying for you.
Well, thank you.
I hope that you feel that.
And
well.
I do. I worry far less about the haters, and life's too short. Try to do the right thing, move on, and better the world.
We have to do that.
Yeah.
I feel like if you have any faith, and believe in any higher power,
and
God for me, God for you.
Yeah, that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Is, the left, they take God out of the equation. Then you take God out of the equation, there's no moral compass.
Yeah.
So you don't give a crap about anybody, and it's sad.
This is so much bigger than us and what we're going through.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing it your way.
It's the only way I know how. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And for welcoming me to Hattiesburg.
I can't believe it's your first time.
First time in If I were here for like a week, I would talk like you. I'd have a